can be the snack too. You don't just have to eat the snack.
You gotta bring the snacks and be the snack.
Take the leap.
Yes,
build the plane on the way down.
And there'll be like a marshmallow or a chocolate pond at the bottom waiting for you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Travis Makes Friends. Today, I am making friends with the beautiful and talented Sierra May. Sierra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. My first ever podcast.
First ever, which means we should probably start it off with a bang. Okay,
Ooh,
I gave you one of these bad boys. I'm still trying to get Magic Mind to sponsor my podcast, Magic Mind. Stop playing around.
Stop playing around.
Just pull the trigger. Just pull the trigger.
I'm a fan of this type of drink. Like I was telling Travis, I drink celery juice every morning, which is amazing. If you have never tried it, I highly recommend it. It will instantly boost your energy. So I'm really excited to try this.
But it sounds not good, though.
Yeah, it's not the best taste.
Okay.
It's definitely an
You gotta get
acquired
used to
taste.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I'm going to be honest with you guys, okay? And don't hold this against me, Magic Mind, but the first formula I did not like very much. It tasted almost like too wheatgrassy, where it was one of those, like, I know it's a wellness shop, but like, I don't like taking nasty things in the morning because I typically fast. And so I don't like having that be the taste in my mouth. You know what I mean? So they sent me these ones, and this is the second formula that they did. And yeah, I like them a lot better. So
Nice.
hey, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
What do you think?
I like it.
It's not bad, right?
This is way better than my celery juice. I'm not even gonna lie.
Exactly. So, first podcast.
That's easy to do.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
First podcast. So, we got a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Anytime, I mean, the show exists because we like to build empathy and respect for everybody in the paths that they chose to take, especially those who went maybe on a little bit more of an unbeaten path, which is the one that you're currently on. So I am excited just to dive into a little bit of the backstory, build some context for everybody listening. So let's go back in time, Sierra. Let's say 9-year-old Sierra May. Bring us back, set the scene. Where are you in the world? You know, contextually, your parents, your background, all that stuff.
Okay. All right. So we're going way back right now.
Way back.
So at the age of 9, I was in Canada. So I grew up in Canada. And at that time, weirdly, that was about when I started to realize that one day I wanted to move to LA. I remember I was around 9 or 10 years old.
Because you were in Canada and you didn't want to be there anymore?
Yes. Well, not even that I didn't want to be there, but
sorry, Canadians, I'm kidding.
I mean, I love Canada, don't get me wrong, and I'm very proud to be a Canadian. But weirdly, I fell into this interest of like acting in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
So I was always interested in movies and stuff. I thought it was a really cool industry. So I remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to start learning like how to do acting and get me into an agency and stuff. So obviously, you know, there's a lot of scammers out there. I remember the first agency that I ever tried to get into.
First agency?
Yeah. I went to auditions and they liked me. And I remember, this is a red flag number 1, don't ever pay to be in an agency. So I remember they told my mom like, yeah, we'll get her in this and this and selling the dream.
It'll only be $3,000.
Literally, they're like, it'll be like $2,000-$3,000, and then we'll get her on our roster.
First of all, we got some headshots.
Yeah.
First.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even think I got that far. I think I have paid my own headshots already at this point. And they were like, and it was in Toronto because I'm from the Toronto area, just outside. It's called Hamilton. It's a smaller city, but let's put it on the map because I'm very proud of where I come from. And so basically, I had been doing these auditions in Toronto, which is more of a popular city. So they also film a lot there. And I remember when I had finally done my audition and they signed me up and we paid for it, they were like, okay, so next week you're going to come to our main office and we'll get you all set up. They went MIA. They completely fell off the planet and did not exist. You couldn't find them anywhere. They just stole all these people's money who had like
moved on to the next town.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a big eye opener for me because I'm a very gullible person and I'm such a dreamer and I'm always like, oh, everything works out, which in my mind, in my imagination, it does.
Sure.
But, you know, things do happen in life. So that was kind of my first red flag of being like, oh, okay, so I need to be more cautious of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So then I remember after that, I started doing background because I was like, let me just get kind of acquainted with the industry And I started doing that for probably like 4 or 5 years. And I had my grandpa, he had no job at the time. So he would drive me out to background, and I actually was on Degrassi a few times, and I would be on movies and stuff like that. And I had such an interest for it. I didn't care about the money or anything. I was just so excited to be a part of the shows and movies and stuff. And I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I always had an interest. And then I did that until I was in high school. And my family was like, okay, so if you want to be an actress, you need something to fall back on. Like, it's very difficult to get into, blah, blah, blah. So I remember I was like, okay, I want to do something in school that's very creative, that I can still use my creativity, but it's like a business background. So it's a good thing to fall back on. So that is when I decided to go into advertising marketing.
Okay.
So I went to college. It's a program it's called Advertising Marketing and Communications. It was a program at a school called Mohawk College, which is like one of the best in the country for that specific thing. Okay. And pretty much I did that. I was really good at it. I fell in love with it. I went the business route because you can go creative or business. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, okay, let me kind of focus on this a bit because I could like it. And it's something more almost like sustainable that I could do. Because again, I'm doing acting and these little like side gigs.
Sure.
But nothing had been like come to fruition yet where it's worth, or I was making great money at it or something. So fast forward, I graduate college. I took a year off and I actually started my own healthy treat business. It was super random. But I always knew I kind of wanted to build my own brand. So I was like getting the fundamentals, and then I wanted to kind of start my own brand. And I didn't know how to do that yet, but I had an interest at the time for fitness and like healthy eating and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I had started gluten-free vegan treats, and I would just make them from home, and I would partner with a company called Fit Dish who did
like meal prep,
fitness meal prep. Yes, thank you. So pretty much that went on for about 2 years, and it was a good experience for me. I remember I started my own YouTube channel, just like creating recipes and stuff, which you can't find it anymore, but it's very embarrassing when I look back at
we'll
this
find
video.
it.
No, I took those down. I was like, this is so embarrassing. My sister actually sent me one the other day. She saw one and we were cracking up. I was like, oh God, what was I thinking? But you know what? These things, they are great because I learned a lot. I learned how to even edit myself.
Everybody sucks at the beginning.
Exactly.
It's one of the things that like, there's so many people just can't wrap their mind around that piece is they only, because by the time they hear about a podcast or a YouTube channel or a creator or a brand or an influencer or something, by the time they hear about them, it's typically when they're already famous or they already have 7 years of history doing this thing. And they have 7 people on their team cutting up stuff, editing, producing, like everything's already done and has been worked on and perfected and iterated on over the past, 7 or 8 years. And, that people, that fear of embarrassment prevents people from taking the initial action that is required of you if you're ever going to get to that point. And that's why I have empathy for people who are like already doing well in something and then they pivot to something else. I have a lot of empathy for those people because like if you're already fairly well known and then you go do something new, you're obviously still going to suck at it. Like just being well known doesn't mean that you're going to be good at that new thing, and then they get a lot of flack for how bad they are. And it's just like, oh, that's because you're failing in the public's eye because you're already well known for this other thing. Exactly. And now everybody just expects that you're going to be good at this thing, but you're not because you've never done it before. You know what I mean? But that one thing will prevent so many people from ever giving it a chance, giving it a shot.
Yeah. And let's circle back to that when I get to my clients, because I think that's a really good point. Yeah. And, just with what I have going on, that I want to show how like you just need to keep persisting and things like that because it's a transition period, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
So where was I? I started my YouTube channel. I was doing all this. My treats were actually doing very well. I was so at the time I was working at an advertising agency at this point. I decided I wanted to do that to get experience in the professional world as in the marketing world, because after taking that year off and starting my brand, I was like, okay, but I don't know where I want to go yet. And I wasn't making enough money where I was content with where I was from my business. And I was like, plus, I don't want to lose my degree. I want to at least get some experience. So I ended up working in this agency in my hometown, Hamilton, for about 2 years. And it was an amazing experience. I still talk to everyone from there. I love them. If you guys are watching, I will always love you guys. But it really built my foundation, even with little things from a professional standpoint of like how to write a proper email and how to have like etiquette in a meeting and stuff like that. And so I think that as much as I didn't, let's say, love the clients I was working with, because it would be like steel companies and car dealerships and things that I didn't have as much interest in. It's still
the unsexy companies that have a lot of money.
Yes. And like, so it was cool. And I learned the basics. I learned marketing. I learned kind of like, how to put tactics together for a client and all these other things. And it was great learning. And I think that the value in that is, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
So, then I basically took that. And again, at this point, my whole life, since I was 10 years old, I had always wanted to move to LA. I don't know why. Had never been there, not once. There was something drawing me to LA. And I would say, even my mom, she brings it up to this day. She's like, I always knew you'd go to LA, because I would say it since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And so circling back to that, when you have something in your mind, you can manifest it. And it all just starts with your imagination and a desire. And I had always had this desire. And I remember at the time, I had a boyfriend of like 4.5 years or something like that. And I would ask him, I was like, hey, do you want to come with me to LA? And he would be like, no, what am I going to do over there? Like, he was in HVAC or something. And it was to the point where it was all these like things started unfolding, because I knew in my heart I had to go. And it was almost at a point like we were already looking at rings, and we were like looking at moving in together, and all these, like, it was getting serious.
Yeah.
And I basically had to choose, like, do I choose this life, or do I choose going to LA and pursuing something that is so random? And I don't know a single person there. I don't know what I'm doing, but something in my heart kept telling me, you need to go do this. You need to at this point, so this was about age 22.
Okay.
22, 23. I'm 29 now. So this was,
knocking on 30s.
I know, I'm almost
right
there. It's scaring me. Oh God, a couple months.
Yeah, we'll cut that part out. Yeah, we won't tell me about that.
Yeah, but so basically at this point, 22, I was like, okay, you have your whole life ahead of you still, but this is like a very pivotal time in your life, right? Like, I'm like, do I get married? Do I have this like traditional life? Yeah. And I stay in my hometown, or do I actually explore the world and take this chance? And I'm a person who was going to be bold in life and take any chances. So that was something where basically I started adjusting myself. Like, I started looking.
Why were you that person?
I've always been that way. I'm a dreamer. Like, in my mind, I can do anything. And I'm a very big advocate of that. I tell everybody.
The reason I asked that, do you have siblings?
I do. I have one sister.
Older, younger?
Let me take that back. I have one blood sister, like full sister, and I have 2 half siblings. But my older sister, she's a year older. She's just 30. So we're a year and 9 months apart. Okay. And then I have 2 half siblings, and they're quite a bit younger. My brother's, he just turned 13. Okay. And I have a little sister. I think she's 5.
Did your sister stay in your hometown?
Yeah, she's still there. She has her husband and her stable job and all that.
So it's always curious to me. That's why I asked the question. I was trying to figure out the why behind it. And the best that I can tell is just some people, it's just hardwired, and it's just a personality thing. And had you stayed and chosen that life, you just would have never been happy doing that, because you would have known that you were leaving something on the table.
Facts.
And some people just don't have that. They don't have, to me, it's not right or wrong either way. It's completely neutral. It's just dependent on, like, that's why I tell people all the time, like, and anytime I get asked, hey, what's the definition of success? It's like, the definition of, like, success starts with having self-awareness and understanding what it means to be successful for you.
Exactly.
Because
and what makes you happy, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. And what you're going to be able to live with on your deathbed. Like, when you look back and you go, like, you're 93 years old, you're sitting on the rocking chair on your front porch and, like, looking back on your life, can't really do anything about it at that point. You can't go back in time and say, I wish I would have just gone to LA. You know what I mean? But you probably could go to LA and be like, I don't like this, and then move back to your hometown a year later, and nothing's different.
Yeah. That was something that true, because I'm a person where I don't want to have regrets in my life.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the worst things you can do, is to live a life that you are unsure if that's what you want and without taking chances and trying things out, because you might fail at it, but if you're not failing if you try, in my opinion, right? Like failure again is one of those things like, what is success to you? If I try something and maybe it's not as, successful as I would expect it to be or would want it to be, you can get there. It's just a matter of persistence. You can get to any point of success as long as you persist through obstacles, in my opinion. And so I think that if you are like a type A type of person where, you're just kind of content with a certain type of lifestyle, you're going to stay in that zone or that comfort zone, right?
Yeah. So you basically were like, this is definitely not the life for me. I'm going to go ahead and make this decision.
Yeah.
Talking about it now, it probably looking back is like, well, that was a no-brainer. But at the time, it probably wasn't a no-brainer, right?
Oh, there was a lot of things. So, I mean, again, when you have there's going to be issues and obstacles no matter what it is. If you're making a big life decision, you have to kind of like go through and pick through like, how should I do it? What am I going to do? For me, let me just give you an understanding. I didn't know a single person in LA at the time. I had a car lease that was, I think I still had 3 or 4 years left on it, and I couldn't afford to just pay it all off. And at the time it's under Canada. So in order for me to switch it to be able to get it across the border, that took like weeks of me calling, talking to insurance companies, getting my car like to a certain level of safety to even cross the border. Like there was so many things that I had to do to even get my car across. Then I don't know what area I'm going to live in, and I don't have money also at this time. I think I left Canada with like $2,500 or $3,000 to my name, and that was supposed to get me my 2 months rent, which was like $1,200 at the time
in LA.
Plus gas money, plus stopping at hotels because I drove there with my car, food, all these things. And I'm going in there with no job security. Like I don't have a job lined up or anything. I'm just going in there blind faith, which I actually think is the best thing to do in life in general, is just knowing that you're going to
take the leap.
Yes,
build the plane on the way down.
And you're going to fall, and I actually just wrote something the other day on my story about like taking that leap, and there'll be like a marshmallow or a chocolate pond at the bottom waiting for you. Like you just got to trust that there's going to be something under that's going to be very great. Yeah. And so I basically did that, and I just kind of was like, let's just go with it. I found an apartment. Oh, this is the other thing too. It wasn't it's like a house. So I had certain criteria that I wanted, like non-negotiables and stuff. And I was like, I just want something that's kind of like near downtown, that's in my price range, that has open light, like natural lighting and a good space and whatever. And I found the place perfectly within a couple weeks. Everything just worked out. Everything was aligning perfectly. And I was like, this is meant to happen. And so when I got out to LA, finally, my best friend drove with me across the country. It was one of the best experiences ever. We had so much fun, and we would stop in different cities. And weirdly, even though I had been in Canada, I'd never really been through America ever, other than like living there. I was born in New Orleans. So,
really? Okay.
So I have a dual citizenship, which makes it easier, for me to be here now.
Sure.
But I really had never explored America at this point. When you're in Canada, everyone's an international traveler. So it's weird, but everyone would go to like Europe or whatever. I feel like that's not as common out here in America.
No, absolutely not. It's definitely true. Yeah. Whenever we're out internationally, you go to like the hostels, the local hostels or any communities, stuff like that. When you're traveling abroad, and the majority of like the white English speaking people are Canadian or from the UK or Australia or something like that. There's just not a lot of.
It's weird.
It is.
Americans do not travel like that. Right. They travel within America, and that was a big thing I noticed when I came out here, because I'm very well traveled. My friends are all like, anyone from Canada that I know, they are always like, they've been all around the world. But here, a lot of people don't even have a passport. And that used to blow my mind. I was like, wait, what? You haven't seen the world then. Right. America's great.
Other things that exist.
Yes. And I think that opens up your mind a lot.
It's a huge education piece, traveling.
Yes.
Yeah. If you've only ever seen one version of life, you don't have the ability to empathize or communicate or understand where anybody else is coming from, because you've never just gone and immersed yourself or tried to, like you've never been the odd one out. You know what I mean? Like you got to on purpose put yourself in those situations, because to me it's a huge just self-development, personal development.
I agree.
Activity, and it happens to be a pretty fun one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's travel mishaps that happen like seemingly every time I do a big trip, whether it's international or
trip.
in the States. Yeah.
You're getting into trouble. I can tell.
There's hiccups along the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's
a couple
travel,
hangover experiences.
Trying to get to the airport on time.
Yeah.
Missing flights or rescheduling, sleeping in the airport. It's just like there's a bunch of stuff that happens, but all of those things teach you a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah.
And help you learn how to overcome adversity more and look for positives in life. You know what I mean?
I agree.
But then also the actual real parts of it, which is being exposed to different cultures and immersing yourself in those cultures, getting to know the people. And like I said, being familiar with being the person who can't speak the language and like trying to make your way through that country or whatever. And it just gives you a whole new, fresh perspective on what you can be grateful for in your everyday life, back in the States.
That's my favorite.
Because every time I come back, I'm happy I'm back home.
Yes.
Like, I love the USA.
Yes.
Like it's my country. You know what I mean? But I also really, really enjoy traveling.
Yes.
But when I come through the airport for the first time, I make it through and I'm like coming down the escalator and I see American flag and customs. I'm
You're
just
like,
like,
oh,
I'm just like, good to be home.
Yeah, I totally get that feeling. And I'm the same way. But I think it does make you appreciate America more because you're like, wow, a lot of the world does not have what we have. Even basic necessities like toilet paper,
water.
Isn't it? Water, yeah.
Like, don't drink the water.
Exactly.
Don't drink the water.
Yeah. I mean,
I have to drink water. It's like you can only drink bottled water.
I've had some bad experiences.
Yeah.
Don't drink the water in certain countries.
For real though. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like it's not just like a warning. It's like it's not like it's going to taste bad. It's going to be like no, you're going to be sick for 3 days.
Yeah, you're not leaving your bed. You're going to be. It's not fun.
So on that, before we jump back to the story, you traveled a bunch, been to a bunch of different places, and you've been to a bunch of different places in the country as well.
Yes.
You live in Vegas, see you in Miami, and all these other different places all the time, where all the parties are. Because as we'll get into in a second, you're kind of in that world with the clients. I know
we're not even there yet.
Where's the best places to party?
Ooh, so for me personally, in my experiences, I would say the top 2 places, probably Miami and Vegas.
All right.
For partiers, yes.
Miami and Vegas.
Crazy. A lot of people think I'm like a huge partier, and I am in that scene a lot because that is my part of my job.
Yeah.
And I'm a social drinker and stuff.
Yeah.
But I actually am not like a huge fan of clubbing or anything or like crazy partying. If you see me out, it's usually like an incentive, like I'm going to an event or a meeting or something like that, because I want to be surrounding myself with the type of people who are at that event or that meeting. But like, people ask me, I could go to a club every night if I wanted to, just because I get it literally every night. So people are hitting me up. I'm like, oh no, I'm okay. Thank you. Like, I don't go just for the fun of it. I'm going there as a networking opportunity. That's when you're going to see me out.
Absolutely the same way. Yeah. Like I definitely don't get the broader appeal of going out like that all the time. No. It's just like, there's just so much dick measuring that goes on, which is just bad for my credit card. You know what I mean? It's just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like again, like you said, if I'm out with some friends, like friends that I'm really close with, and we're just having a good time, fine.
And
or if I'm out I'm at an event and a bunch of people are going out somewhere, and you want to get to know those people, and you want to have fun with them outside of the context of like classroom style learning, then I'm there. Like I have really bad FOMO, and
I get that sometimes
so
too.
I do want to be where people are and where things are happening. But yeah, I don't understand these people, man, that just like,
that's all they do. And they just love partying.
That's got to be your number one expense.
Yes.
Like, how do you go? It's either that or like you one of your friends is really rich and you just go on their tab all the time or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like, how do you go out all the time?
Boring. Like for me, again, coming from Canada, the drinking age is 19 over there. So off the record, I used to go out since I was like 16 years old and I'd get a fake ID. And in Montreal, that drinking age is 18. So I used to go to Montreal like in
What's
high
the statute
school.
of limitations on these things?
Yeah, I don't know. But, you know, they just, it's easy to get a fake ID and go out when you're that age, especially for me. I've always like looked mature for my age and I've always got that. So at the age of 16, people thought I was already 19 and they sometimes wouldn't even question me, you know, just because my demeanor and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this. I've been in this game for a minute. And by the time I turned 21, I was already over it. I was like, all right.
I'm already burnt out.
Yeah. I used to like party in high school and stuff. And don't get me wrong, like it's great. And I had so much fun. And I'm so happy I did that because I had it literally made me who I am. And I enjoyed those experiences. And I think it's so important to go out and have your fun, or else you turn 40 and you're like, what have I done with my life? Like then that's when people have their like midlife crises and stuff, right? So I'm like, I've been through that. I've done it all. Like I'm good now. Now I just do it as like I enjoy being in those environments if I'm making money doing it. Like it's not a bad job. I like it, you know, but it's not something where I'm like, unless it's one of my good friend's birthdays and I love her or whatever, of course I'm going to go. I'll do whatever. I'll literally sleep under a rock.
It's not like you're allergic to fun, right? Yeah, exactly. It's just like I would go camping with you guys.
Exactly. Whatever you
want. We could sit on the couch, play video games and eat pizza and drink beer, or we could go to the club, like whatever. Like we're still having a good time.
I'm game for anything. Like if I care about you, whatever you want to do, I'm there. And it's just kind of like a default thing that people are like, oh, let's go to the club. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. All right. I guess I'll go.
Live in Vegas.
Exactly. And exactly like where we are, LA, Vegas, Miami, like that's just what you do in those cities, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So that's why
whenever people are in town, you know.
Yes.
It's always funny being a Vegas local because people hit you up on like a Wednesday, you know, and they're like, we're going out tonight. It's like, bro, it's fucking Wednesday. Like I have to get up in the morning. It's
like I have a child.
Yeah, like 2 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 of them. Yeah.
I didn't know
so
that.
like, I got my son
You're
is
busy.
my son is almost 4.
Wow.
My daughter is 2.
Oh, congrats.
So, and we got the businesses. There's so many things. Like it's the middle of the week, man. Like you can't come in on a Wednesday, hit me up and be like, hey, let's go out. We're starting at midnight.
Yes,
like, I will have been
Vegas.
asleep for 3 hours by then. So
exactly.
don't
I'm
text
with
me.
You too. Yeah. I know people hit me up at like 11. I was like, oh, I'm in bed by now. What do you mean? I'm an old lady now.
Like, absolutely.
You got to give me days in advance.
I'm getting up at 4:30, so I don't want to be rolling into my house at the time that I'm supposed to be getting up.
Your girl will not like that. She's like, we've been there already.
Oh man.
But okay,
so back into the story.
I'm driving across the country.
Across the country. Yes.
So if you've never done that too, that's something I recommend. Is like such an amazing experience. It's one of the stories that I love telling people because it's just so random. But especially when you're driving across the country, which I've never been through, it was so cool. Like it would be, for example, so I started in Hamilton, where I'm from, which is like Toronto area, and then we're driving, and it's winter at this point, keep in mind, right? So January 2nd, 2018 was when I left. And I remember it was a blizzard and my family was like, please, Sierra, like don't go yet. Don't drive through this blizzard. And I'm like, I'm not staying in Canada one more day. I'm getting out of here. I'm not a snow person. I'm not a cold weather person. Like bring me to the sunshine. So
LA is a good spot.
Exactly. Like that's in my mind. I'm like, sunshine, I'm getting out of here. So as I'm driving, we hit like Michigan. That was where I crossed the border. And then we go and stopped in Chicago. That was, I think, like an 8 or 9 hour drive.
Okay.
And then, so from Chicago, we stayed, which obviously is a great city.
Lots of fun.
So that was cool. I had never been there. So my best friend since I was like, I don't know, 12, again, she's with me. So we're exploring Chicago. We go see the Bean. We're just doing, kind of touristy stuff. Yeah. And then we get back in the kind of like, I'd say around 5 p.m. or something. And we're going to the next stop. So we're driving. We're just having so much fun. We're talking. We're listening to music, like doing, just regular stuff. And then the next stop, I think, it was Tulsa. Really weird city. I'm sorry to offend anybody, but it felt like
anybody that's listening to this show. Nobody in Tulsa is downloading this podcast.
True.
If you are, I feel really bad now. But
I know, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they gotta know.
I'm sorry, but
they gotta know if you're in Tulsa.
An odd city. Yeah. Like it's just weird vibes.
Basically, that entire like section of the country is like if you're in Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, it's just like. It's nothing but acres and acres of fields and
it's very
nothing
Hills
to
Have
do.
Eyesy.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
nothing to do but
this?
drink and like shoot shit.
Yeah. I remember my friend, we had to stop and get gas. And I remember we go into a gas station. And again, coming from Canada, like you don't see this stuff. So we pull up and I'm walking into the store part to pay for it. And there was a huge sign that said, "Don't bring your guns inside." And in my mind, I'm like, wait, what? Like you might see like wear shoes in or like wear a shirt or something in like Canada.
Leave your guns out there on the porch there.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, what? Like, where am I? So I'm
like
all
an Old West saloon.
Yeah. Me and her are like, all right, we got to get out of here. Like that was in the cities that we did not try to stick around in. We're like, let's get back on the road.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So then from there, we stopped in New Mexico. Really cool city. It's beautiful. I didn't expect it to be that pretty, like with the mountains and stuff. Yeah. So that was really nice. We just kind of were doing like outdoorsy stuff, like walking around. Yeah. And then next stop was Phoenix, Arizona. So that was fun. We went out that night, and that was my last stop before we got to LA. So we went out partying that night.
Phoenix, Scottsdale. That's a place to go out and party.
And it was cool. And I forgot to mention this. I thought it was really cool too because I had mentioned at the beginning that I left when it was a blizzard, right? So it's like every few out, like every stop, we were like taking layers got
nicer
off.
And nicer.
It was it was like the path to like happiness.
Seems like I'm headed in the right direction.
Exactly. This is where I'm supposed to be. So it was really cool. And the drive itself was gorgeous. Like just watching sunsets, driving in the middle of, just nothing. It was like very peaceful. It was a beautiful experience. So if anyone has a chance to do it and drive across the country, I would say do it. Would I do it again? Probably not, because it was a lot of driving, but it was a great experience. I'm so happy I did it. So then, and then I ended up in LA. She stayed with me, my friend, for about 5 days, got me set up. Thank God, because let me tell you, I'm not someone who can build furniture or like
You'd just be sleeping on the floor.
I
mattress or something.
Yeah. And it's so funny. We still joke about it to this day because like we don't even have a measuring tape. So, people like joke about girls and how they'll sit there and like measure furniture doing like arm lengths and stuff. So me and her literally go to IKEA and we have like, we're doing our arm measurements of like how to fit things in.
No, that's about right. That looks good.
Yeah.
By the time you put it up there, it's like changed
exactly.
about 4 inches.
No, but we did what we could. And it was just funny, like two girls doing this experience. Like we're working with what we have. Yeah. But it's just ridiculous. And it still was fun. Like we loved it. Like it's one of those stories that we still talk about to this day. And I really appreciated it. So yeah, pretty much that was my experience getting out to Canada and how I got out here and then, to America. And then I landed a serving job when I first got out, probably 3 weeks in. I had been applying and I had served in as a waitress in Canada for years. So I was like, that's like a good start. I just need to get a server job. And then at least I'll be good with like money and stuff. And it worked out for me. I ended up working at the sports bar in LA Live it's now called Tom's Watch Bar, but it was Tom's Urban before. Oh, yeah. It's like right across from the old Staples Center. Crypto. Yeah. So that was my little story of how I got out there. Nice. And it's been great since.
So at what point did you get into the talent management that you're doing now?
So I had told you I had never been to LA yet. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be smart about this. And I want to go at least like look at it. I'm going to go see what the area is, see if it feels right to me when I get there. And so at this time, I was working at the agency and because it was within my first year and a half, I had already known this whole time that I was going to be leaving. And I had my sister's wedding this year and I had, I knew that I needed time off to like go do my site tour and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you only get 5 sick days in Canada. 5.
That is not a lot of sick days.
No, like vacation days, sick days, whatever.
Oh, so, like total time off, not even just
total time. So I remember I would be deathly ill at work. And I was like, I'm saving these sick days because I could move it over to the following year. And I knew that I wanted to add up those days so that I could go to my sister's wedding and try to go to LA. Mm. to do a site tour and stuff. So this was like what I had planned kind of like almost midway. So I had basically known the whole time that eventually I was going to go to LA. I just didn't know how it was going to pan out yet. And then, so I had moved over the sick days. I finally had enough where I was able to go to LA for like a weekend or 4 days or something like that. So one of my other friends from Canada came with me and we did a site tour. This was like probably 2 months before I moved. And while I was in LA that weekend, this is actually a really crazy story. Sorry, let me circle back. So when I was booking the flights with her, I'm at her house. And do you know the show, The Bachelorette? Mm-hmm. I'm not a TV person. I don't watch TV. I don't even turn it on. But Bachelorette and The Bachelor in Canada is like a huge thing. Like everyone watches it. Even to this day, it's such a big show that is like very common out there. And so my friend who was going to come with me to LA, she was watching the show while we're booking the flights. And she's like, this was probably like the 3rd or 4th episode before the finale. And I remember she was like showing me the show while we're booking it. And she's like, oh my God, that's Eric Bigger. I don't know if you know who that is, but he was one of the finalists on the show for Rachel's season. I forget what season that was. Okay. But so she's like showing me all these characters. She's like, yeah, Eric right there. That's the one I want to win. And she keeps on talking about Eric. And so we're booking the flights. We finally book it, like not even thinking anything of it. I'm like, okay, that's cool. We're watching the show. The day we get to LA for the site tour, we were told like, oh, you should go to One Oak. It's a really good club. So we go to One Oak and guess who's there? The entire cast of The Bachelorette.
No way.
And so the season finale had not aired yet. So as you can imagine, my friend is like tripping out. Like she's fangirling. She's like, Sierra, that's Eric Bigger. I want to go take a picture and stuff. And so me again, like I've never been like a fangirl type thing. I'm like, okay, if you want, like I'll go take the picture for you. So it's really cute. Like I remember she was all happy and she got to see Eric. And so they took a picture and I'm like on the corner, like not even caring. I'm just like talking to random people and stuff at One Oak. And I guess I had like started talking to Eric's manager. At the time, I didn't even realize I'm friendly. I was just talking to whoever and he was super nice and we were just hitting it off. And then after the night, it turns out that was Eric's manager because then he comes over and they're both talking to us outside of One Oak. And so basically I already was just like, we're about to go home and they kind of just started chatting with us. I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing tomorrow and stuff? We're like, well, we're here for the weekend. Maybe we can do something. So me and Michael, Eric's manager, like connected and he had been talking about, oh, I love Toronto. I want to bring Eric to Toronto. And in my mind, I was like, ooh, this is an opportunity here. And again, at this point, I don't know anybody, right? So I'm like, let me see what I can do. I was like, if you want to come to Toronto, let me try to bring you out to Toronto. That in my mind was like, one, I'll build the relationship with someone who's already in the entertainment industry, which again, I've always had an interest in. Right. And I was like, this could be like a great opportunity for me just to like try to do something cool and bring them out. And I already knew some contacts in clubs in Toronto. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, him and we keep in touch for a couple months because this is probably 2-3 months before I moved to LA officially. And he and I started coordinating and like on the phone, I'd be at my agency and I'd be leaving on my lunches, talking and negotiating like all these deals and stuff with clubs. We ended up doing a whole campaign called Eric Bigger Takes on Toronto. And I helped literally plan the entire thing. Really? Wow. So that was a great thing for me because it kind of like, I was able to kind of get my foot in the door in LA before I had even got out there. Sure. So, and people are doubting it too. They're like, oh, you're not going to be able to do this, blah, blah, blah. And again, persistence. You just got to know you can make it happen. And right before, like I had moved and stuff, we were able to make it happen. And actually, I got Peter Cross, who was the other finalist, and Eric at this one club in Toronto. And it was like a meet and greet experience. Good. They got flown out. And then we did with Eric, it was a date night at STK. So the winners of this contest won the date night experience with him. And it was amazing. They like set us up and we had our camera people there and stuff. And then he did a boot camp as well. So fans of him got to be trained because he's a personal trainer in this boot camp. And so basically, now from there, that was kind of a great start to when I finally did move out to LA because I did know someone and I was like, okay, this is now like I had been building these relationships and they are amazing to this day. I will always be like close with them. I love them so much. I remember when I first moved to LA, my grandma was sick. And she had cancer. And that was my biggest thing because I'm like, I have no money and she's going to pass away and I can't get home to see her before she does, but I have to get out here. And Eric actually bought my flight to go see her. Like, they're just amazing people, you know? And so I felt very safe coming to LA, even having that initial relationship. And that was the only other person I knew.
And it gave you a little bit of a taste of what you're doing now.
Exactly. Sorry. So now let's get back to that. And that was kind of what inspired me at this point. I didn't know I was going to be doing talent management. So, but seeing kind of what what Michael did with Eric, I was like, I could do that. This is easy. And I see what he was doing and how he built relationships and stuff. And I would help them with certain things like, just whatever they needed, really. I was just their person. I would come, I'd film stuff at like boot camps or whatever they needed just to learn and also to support because I love them. And so that kind of triggered something in me a little bit where I didn't pursue anything yet. But again, back to the idea of like manifestation and stuff, something was brewing. So I, at this time, was doing stuff with them and working at the bar that I was working at. And one of my friends from Toronto, so remember I told you I did the healthy treat business and I partnered with the Fit Dish company. Frank, love you if you're listening. I know he's going to. He's so supportive. He's the owner of Fit Dish.
Okay, sweet.
And so he's actually the one who connected me with Talia. And he was like, okay, so...
who's one of your clients?
Yes, who's one of my clients now. So he was like, oh, I've given Talia food from Fit Dish before when she had come to Toronto. And she was modeling at the time. I think she had just become Cyber Girl of the Year for Playboy. And he was like, she's such a sweet girl. You will love her. You need to connect with her out there. And at this time, I think she had like 250,000 followers or 300,000 followers or something. But she was building a name for herself. And I don't really care about stuff like that. But I was just like, yeah, it's another great person for me to know out here. And I messaged her. And we were DMing. We went on a hike at Runyon probably like 3 or 4 days later. And we just hit it off instantly. She's the sweetest girl ever. And he was saying that. He's like, oh, she's so nice and stuff. And literally we went on a hike and then we went to go get her nails done. And then we went to go get lunch. And the rest was history. Like we just hit it off. And now she's my client.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, you know, that one little introduction or whatever created this whole domino effect. And at the time we were just friends. So I would go to some of her like hosting things and stuff. And we're just building that relationship. And then one day she calls me and she was like, hey, would you ever consider managing? I want to start a DJ group with 2 of my friends from my hometown in Santa Barbara. And we think we want to do this. Like, is that something you would want to do? And I remember being like, obviously a little scared at first.
Sure.
Not even scared, but just like, what? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, timid.
Like,
just
I've never done this before.
Question mark.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, ooh, but it's a challenge. And I love challenges. And I'm always like interested in seeing what I'm capable of doing. And I mean, I already know what I'm capable of doing, but I'm like, let's just see.
Got to put it to the test.
Yeah, let's see what
otherwise
we can
it's
do
just
with
theory.
this. Exactly.
You know, everybody can talk about what they're capable of doing, but you got to go show someone.
Exactly.
Once in a while.
And so for me, again, I've always kind of had that mindset that I can do anything, which I think everyone should have that mindset because you can. And I think that it was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I've seen kind of what it entails, that job, because from Michael and Eric, and I was like, I think I would like it. Like, again, and then it kind of tied back into my marketing job where it was like I was dealing with clients already. I knew how to deal with clients and I would be the middle person. So I'm like, it's kind of like a combination of both. Plus, it's entertainment industry still in a way because it's DJing music industry, which at the time I had no concept of. I didn't understand like what it was all about, but a learning experience. So this was 2019, end of 2019, I think. So I had been there about a year in LA. And we started branding them out as this, it was a DJ group called LTE at the time. And from then it went on for a little bit. probably until about COVID happened. And then 2 of the girls kind of went their separate ways. It was very difficult with 3 girls. Still love them to this day. We're still friends. It just kind of like, the dynamic of the 3 DJs didn't really work for some reason. But again, it's trial and error.
Sure. Yeah.
And it really like sparked something in me where I was like, I love this. This is so cool. And again, I had no idea what I was doing at the time, but I saw like, it was kind of like putting puzzle pieces together. And I still, to this day, I mean, everyone really is doing that, right?
Sure. I mean, that's like, that's the common theme throughout everything we've been talking about so far is that you basically just, you always were willing to take the next step. And to me, that's another one of those things that holds people back is that they don't want to take the first step because they can't see where the destination is. It's like I kind of know, I have clarity of where I want to end up in terms of what I want my life to look like, right? Typically lifestyle things. I want freedom. I want some discretionary money. I don't want to have to worry about that. I want this thing and that thing. And it's like this distant, far off, blurry future that they want, but because it's not crystal clear exactly what it is, like, I'm going to be a finance manager at a whatever, venture capital firm, or I'm going to be a manager, I'm going to be a podcaster, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be a really good employee, like whatever it is, like just because they can't see it clearly, they don't ever take the first step toward it. And they just keep going down this other path because it's the one that they're on, because it's too scary to alter the path for something that they can't see, And so I think that there's major value in just taking the next step.
Agreed.
And being open to the opportunities that present themselves to you. But you put yourself in a position, you went to a place, physically moved to a different place that would have more opportunities in an area that you were interested in and wanted to be successful in some regard.
Yes.
No idea what it was going to look like, how it was going to come together. Not, and even now to this day, like you probably don't know what the next 10 years are going to look like, but you're going to take the next step. You know what I mean? Be open to the opportunity, give it your best. Add, like, one thing that I pulled from what you were talking about just now is that it's seemingly you were always willing to add value without ever expecting anything in return.
That's a
just
big
connecting
thing.
to people and saying, like, how can I enrich this person's life?
Yes.
I don't know how it's going to turn into money for me, and I don't know exactly what I'm doing with this yet, but like they seem like a cool person. If I can somehow be a valuable relationship with this person, it's probably going to be good for me at some point later on down the road. And if it's not, I just put some good into the world, and there's no harm in that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That is a huge thing. And it's crazy that you said exactly that, because that has been my mindset from the beginning. I've never been money motivated. And for me, relationships are the most important thing. And I feel like there's a lack of that in America. And I'm not trying to be offensive or, anything, but people are very materialistic here, and they look at like luxury and money over time and relationships on a value scale. And I would say the most important thing, again, this, is like who you know, and building trust and having like a strong foundation relationship with people is the number one. And that will get you so much farther than money or anything ever will. You can, just even where I am currently, it took me years to get to this point, just from putting my time and effort into people and not getting any money out of it. And I never thought of it. I didn't even care. I just loved doing things for people and being a good friend or whatever it is. And that transpired into where I am right now with my clients and my relationships. And I think that if you have that in your mind where, like money is the motivation and your main focus, I mean, great. Yes. Like everyone wants money. Money makes life easier. And I'm not against money at all. I think, that's obviously a goal of mine, is to have that. So I have financial freedom and stuff. But that's never my number one priority. My number one priority is always making sure that my relationships are stable and that they feel comfortable, even with my clients and stuff, and adding, like you said, adding value to them, because it always comes back in some way, one way or another. Like for me right now
or in the future.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the number one value, in my opinion, is your relationships over anything else.
I think you've proven that.
Thank you.
You're in a business that thrives off of relationships. So tell us, like, break down, how do you make money? What do you do?
So it depends on, in general, my clients, right now I have Talia, who's my DJ, and I have Amanda, that's my artist. And we'll get back to her too, because she was the one I mentioned, like transitioning from a model to an artist. But it really can be, so I get a percentage. And again, back to my initial story of like going to an agency and paying up front, don't ever pay an agency, because if they see the value in you, the money will come based on like a commission, and they're going to work harder for you. So for me, I've never taken any monthly fees or anything like that from my clients. Again, it took me actually a couple of years, especially because of COVID and stuff, to even make a dime.
Because you're getting paid gigs for people.
Yeah. So everything like hostings, DJ bookings, whatever it may be, that, or like brand deals, stuff like that, I get my percentage from that. And so that really essentially is how I make my money. So you're always having to be creative with what you bring to the table, and you want to try to diversify like the opportunities for your clients. And that's part of what your job is as a manager. Like, you don't want to be stagnant and just do the same thing. So, for example, with Talia, like, we'll do bookings and stuff. We've also launched a merch line for her, 2 different ones, actually. We're working right now on a product line that I can't say yet because it's not finalized, but, just like products and stuff that you're elevating their brand on top of like bookings. So coming up in May, Memorial Weekend, she's hosting Sapphire New York. And so again, like nice. And there's always something kind of coming up in the works. I just actually had meetings out here with some day clubs in Vegas. Okay. So hopefully, something transpires from that. But you just always have to be working, meeting people, doing things. And so hopefully that is going to be kind of, that's like the main way that I make money. Yeah. But again, just for people listening, that I didn't make any money for the first almost 2 years. Yes, also because of COVID, nothing was open. But all I was doing was building up their brand, from logos to, like visuals and stuff that we could use, and doing, and just like meeting people, collabing, doing things to help build their brand that wasn't financially beneficial to me at all. But I always saw the bigger picture. And I think that when you have that, again, like if you have an agency or someone representing you, you want them to have that mentality where they see your value, regardless of if money is coming in or not, and they can see the bigger picture and they see where they can get you to, because that's the type of person who's going to treat you like it's their own brand. Like, I put them above my own stuff constantly. Like, I had just launched my merch line and my little snack line. Oh, I brought you some. Oh, yes. Sweet. Yeah, go grab them real quick. Okay, I want to put them on camera. There it is. Here we go. Yes. Oh, there's another kind too, but this is one of the snacks. Okay, let me grab the other one. Okay. Sierra Snacks. Yes. Sweet. Bring the snacks and be the snack. Yes. These are perfect for me. I know, because you're a snack. Yes. Waited my whole life. This one is the sweet and sexy brownie bites. This is what is it? That's my shit right there. Yeah, you're a chocolate person. Hot and spicy sesame sticks. Sesame sticks, yeah. So it's a sweet and a savory. But again, like, this is something that I just did for myself, because it has a merch line too. Yes. Right? And it's a merch line. Yes. But again, like, they're my main priority. I treat their brands as if it's my own. Like, I'm always looking at them, like, and their money too. Because if they're investing in something, I'm like, is this a valuable investment? Is this going to be making them money? And again, it's not even like I'm thinking like, how much money am I going to make out of it? Because a lot of the time they have to do an initial investment, and I won't see anything for a while. So I'm not even thinking about that, right? You got to get somebody that's thinking long-term. Like, exactly. your manager has to be thinking long-term about it. Like you said, it's not about like, can we make some money on this deal? It's about what's the long-term ramifications of taking this deal, and what does that do to our brand over time? Yes. Does it elevate us, or does it make us look cheap? Like, that's not a good deal, even if it pays us money. Yes. And you have to be selective sometimes. Absolutely. Even if it like hurts your wallet in the meantime or the short term. I was reading Will Smith's book, his autobiography, and he was talking about his manager, and there was a movie that a deal that came on the table, and this was a few months ago I was reading this, so I might get a couple details wrong, but basically he was already doing well in hip hop, and then he was already cast on The Fresh Prince, and he was trying to get into doing movies, but he wanted to do like big time, like he wanted to become a movie star essentially. Oh, wow. Like the next phase of his career, going from like, rapper, going from artist to actor, like television actor, and then moving into being like movie star, which he obviously ended up doing. But the first deal that got put on the table was a fat check. It was several $1 million to play
I think it was like a gang member or something in a movie that was coming out, and it was fairly well known, like cast or something as well. And Will was super pumped about the opportunity. I mean, it was a several $1 million offer. I want to say $2 or $3 million, something like that. And it was like one of the first big movies that was offering him anything. And his manager was like, he got on the phone with his manager, and his manager was like, we should not take this. And Will was just, flabbergasted that he was giving him this advice. Yeah, because obviously, because his manager makes a percentage of that whole contract, which is a lot of money for him. So he was like, okay, well, why not? Yeah. And so he starts giving all these reasons about like, hey, if you want, like, let me just clarify, you want to be Tom Cruise, right? Tom Cruise at that time was like the guy. You want to be like this movie star. Well, if you take this role, it's not going to put you on a path to get to that to get to that point. It's gonna pigeonhole you into this particular part. You're never gonna get offered anything else. Like your brand is gonna be that, and you're gonna solidify yourself here, and you're never gonna be able to move to the next step. So I ended up taking a different role. There was almost, again, you're gonna have to double check me on the details, but I think it was 1/10 of the size of the paycheck. It was literally like, it was a 6-figure deal. It was not 7 figures. It was a couple $100,000 to do a different part, but it was much more of like an intense acting role, where Will was able to really like bust out some real acting chops.
So he saw the long term.
Yeah, it was just like they both took a much smaller paycheck, so that they could set themselves up to get the next role and get the next role. And then obviously he went on that crazy stretch of movies that just kept breaking record after record with, Hancock.
Was it I Am Legend?
I Am Legend.
I love that movie.
Yeah, Hancock, I Am Legend, Pursuit of Happiness, like just like hit after hit after hit after hit, breaking box office records. But I thought it was really an interesting part of the story to see that, like, I tell people all the time, if you're not in the long game, you're in the wrong game.
Yes,
and that's a perfect example of what that looks like. It's like they said no to a high dollar figure, short-term money, so that they could say yes to what their goal ultimately was. Yeah. Which is, exactly what you're talking about.
That's a great point. I actually just like a real life example of something that just happened for this with my other client, the Amanda Nicole. So we were offered a hosting gig, and they were giving her, I gave my rates or our rates, and I said, this is how much it is for the rate. And he was like, oh, this is the booking guy who was helping us with this. And he was like, we actually cannot offer you that. We're going to give you this. It was literally less than half of my initial rate. And so I'm like, okay, again, like this happens in the industry where you have to counter offer things. So after discussing it with Amanda, we're like, okay, well, like, let's see the value in this, like maybe, promotion and this and that, right? So we countered and said, we'll give it to you for this amount. He still said, no, they are not offering that. So we declined it. And it was still good money. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still great money. And for me, and she was actually down. And to your point, I said, no, I had to say, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing it, because then you're
setting a standard.
Exactly. You have to set a standard for yourself. And her value is way more than that. I'm like, sorry, your value is more than that. So no. And I went back to them, and you know what's going to happen is eventually they're going to be like, okay, they weren't playing with us.
If we really want her, we're going to
pay for it. Yes. Yeah. And I literally said that. I was like, okay, so maybe you can't right now, but when you have a big enough budget, or you can do something that's in line with our pricing, we'd be happy to work with you guys. In the meantime, I have another influencer that is in your price range, and that's what I did. So I brought another friend of mine who's an influencer that's in their price range, and I actually was able to close the deal for her instead. Yeah. So, it'll work out, but that's exactly to your point, you have to do that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's been a lot of fun, Sierra.
Thank you.
Before we go, where can people find a little bit more about you and what you're working on?
Yes. So a great way to connect with me is on Instagram. I'm really good at answering DMs and stuff. So at It's Sierra May. And you can also go on my link in my bio if you're interested in my Sierra Snacks line, where you can get merch and Sierra Snacks delivered to your door.
Yes. Yeah. And the cool thing is that you can be the snack too. You don't just have to eat the snack. You got to bring
the snacks and be the snack.
That's
and
right.
We'll talk about that in a whole other episode, because that's another story.
That says snack. Right
yes. The merch is snack. So you are the snack essentially. And the merch is, you're the snack inside, and the merch is the packaging. And then tied with this, it's a recipe for success. And that's actually psychological reason for success too, because when you bring things to people, it actually automatically creates a good initial like a relationship.
Desire for reciprocity.
Yes. Yeah. So
awesome.
It was so nice being here. I love
thanks so
chatting
much
with you.
for coming. What's your final verdict on the Magic Mind we took?
Oh, I want some.
Yeah.
I would totally drink it again. I'm like excited to try more.
I'll actually make an intro for you because obviously you have people that could obviously sell some of those as well.
Yes, I would love that.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Sierra. If you're checking the show out, please leave a quick rating and review over on Apple Podcasts and a rating on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, follow along for more episodes with amazing people like Sierra. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun with you guys.